Imagine this. It's been 9 days since your tribe ate a real meal. The last deer you tracked, gone. The roots you dug up, frozen solid under 2 feet of ice. Your children are crying. Your elders have stopped crying, which is somehow worse. No grocery store, no emergency food bank, no phone signal to call for help. Just you, a dying fire, and a winter that doesn't care whether you live or die. So what do? Here's the thing that blows my mind. People did this for hundreds of thousands of years. They looked starvation dead in the face, and they won. How did ancient humans survive starvation? Today's video is going to answer 3 questions that I genuinely couldn't stop thinking about once I started digging into this. If every modern food system disappeared tomorrow, what would actually keep you alive in the first 30 days? What does starvation actually do to a human body? And what secret weapons did ancient humans have built into their biology that most of us have completely forgotten about? Why did ancient humans have a higher survival rate during food shortages than many modern humans would today, even without a single piece of technology? The answers are fascinating and a little bit humbling, because it turns out the people we sometimes think of as primitive, they weren't surviving because they were ancient humans. They were surviving because of everything being ancient taught them. Let's go back, way back, 50,000 years ago, Upper Paleolithic period. Homo sapiens are fully modern, same brain, same body, same emotions as you. They laugh, they argue, they love people, they fear things in the dark. But here's the one thing that was permanently different from your life today. The food situation was never, ever guaranteed. Modern humans eat an average of 3 times per day. We have refrigerators, we have supermarkets, we have supply chains that cross entire oceans to bring us strawberries in January. Ancient humans, Paleolithic hunter-gatherers, likely experienced significant hunger between 20 and 40% of their lives. And
1 in every 3 days, hunger wasn't the exception, it was the rhythm. So how did they handle it? How did ordinary people, no hospitals, no food banks, no government aid, face down weeks of near-zero caloric intake and come out the other side? It starts with understanding something incredible about the human body. Here's what most people don't know about the human body. You were built for famine. Not by accident, not as a flaw, as a feature. Let me walk you through what actually happens when food stops coming in, because this is genuinely one of the most sophisticated biological emergency systems on the planet. Hour 0. You eat your last meal. Your body is happy. Blood sugar is up. Energy is flowing. The tiny workers in your body are throwing a little party. 6 hours later, the food is digested. Blood sugar starts to drop. Your body sends the first memo to the crisis management office. The liver kicks in. It releases stored glucose. Think of it as your body's emergency petty cash drawer. 24 hours. This is where things get interesting. The liver's glucose stash? Almost gone. Your body makes a decision that is honestly genius. It switches fuel sources. This process is called ketosis. Your fat tissue begins converting into ketones, an alternative fuel your brain and muscles can actually run on. Now here's the part that matters for our ancient humans. This switch doesn't leave you helpless. In fact, for many people, the first 24 to 48 hours of fasting actually produces a brief surge of clarity and energy. Evolution engineered this on purpose. When food runs out, the last thing your body can afford is for you to be slow and foggy. You need to be sharp enough to go find food. 3 days in, the fat burning is fully underway. The body has made another adjustment. It's reducing non-essential functions. Your body is triage in action. It knows the mission. Keep the brain running, keep the legs moving, keep the heart beating. Everything else waits. 1 week. This is where ancient humans lived that modern humans almost never experience. Ancient humans were adapted to this state. Their bodies had been cycling through feast and famine for thousands of generations. The metabolic machinery was tuned. There's actual research suggesting that hunter-gatherers had more metabolic flexibility than modern humans today, meaning their bodies could switch between burning carbohydrates and burning fat far more efficiently than ours can today. We've essentially broken that switch. Not permanently, but we've stopped using it so often that it gets rusty. Okay, so the body can endure, but just enduring wasn't enough. Ancient humans were also brilliant strategists when it came to finding food in conditions we would consider impossible. Let's break this down into 3 tiers. In good times, and even in moderately bad times, the primary calorie source was large animal protein and fat. Here's why fat was the superstar, not protein. Protein is calorie-dense, but too much of it without fat actually causes a condition called rabbit starvation, or protein poisoning. European trappers and explorers discovered this the hard way. You can eat rabbit, lean, almost zero-fat meat for weeks and actually die of malnutrition while technically consuming calories. Your liver gets overwhelmed processing the excess protein. It's a documented, miserable death. Ancient hunters knew this. When they killed an animal, the organs came first: liver, kidneys, brain, marrow. Bone marrow is 90% fat. In a caloric crisis, it was liquid gold. Ancient sites are absolutely littered with cracked open bones. This was intentional, systematic, sophisticated. When large prey was unavailable, ancient humans dropped to a range of secondary food sources that required intimate, encyclopedic knowledge of the local ecosystem. Roots and tubers. In winter, many plants store massive calorie reserves underground. Some of these dense, starchy roots contain hundreds of calories per pound. The trick was knowing which ones were edible and knowing exactly where to find them. Bark. Not the hard outer bark, the inner cambium layer. Some trees, particularly pines, store sugars and starches in this layer. It's not delicious, but it's calories. Insects and larvae. This one makes modern audiences grimace, but it's genuinely elite survival nutrition. A single handful of fatty insect larvae can deliver 200 to 400 calories and a complete amino acid profile. Ancient humans who knew where to find them under bark, in soil, under rocks, had a calorie source available even in the worst winters. And then there were the things ancient humans did when they were truly desperate. I want to be honest about this, because sanitizing it would be doing a disservice to how hard these people's lives really were. Leather and hide processing. In extreme hunger, hide, the material used for clothing and shelter, could be slowly boiled and consumed. The process removes the tanning compounds, softens the collagen, and produces something that resembles a thick, tasteless, gelatinous broth. Not enough calories to save anyone long-term, but in a 3-day blizzard, enough to keep people alive until they could move again. Controlled starvation migration. When food in an area was truly exhausted, tribes moved, fast, hard, even on minimal calories. Here's the thing about these forced migrations that I find quietly incredible. They didn't just stumble blindly into new territory hoping for luck. They followed knowledge, specifically elder knowledge. This is the part of a story that I think gets missed the most. When we imagine ancient human survival, we imagine a lone warrior, one tough guy against the wilderness. That is not what survival looked like. Survival looked like this. Ancient hunter-gatherer bands typically contained 20 to 50 people. That number wasn't random. It was the product of tens of thousands of years of trial and error. Enough people to carry diverse skill sets, small enough to move fast when the land went dry. In a famine situation, every single one of those roles was critical. Remove any one of them, and the group's survival odds dropped significantly. The elder who knew where the fish gathered under ice in February? Irreplaceable. The plant specialist who could identify the 3 edible roots that looked almost identical to 2 poisonous ones.
This knowledge took decades to accumulate. It was the most valuable resource the tribe possessed, more valuable than their spears, their fire, their shelters. And it was fragile. The death of a knowledgeable elder in an ancient tribe wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a survival event. Information that took 40 years to accumulate could vanish in a single winter. This is why so many researchers believe the care of elders in Paleolithic society wasn't just sentimental, it was strategic. One of the most sophisticated survival innovations ancient humans developed was a food-sharing system that basically operated as a biological insurance policy. When I hunt, I share everything with the tribe. When you hunt successfully, you share with me. Statistically, this created something extraordinary. A single hunter fails at least 50 to 70% of hunts. That means if you eat only what you catch, you're starving more days than not. But a tribe of 20 hunters sharing everything, the random failures average out. Somebody's almost always bringing something home. This wasn't charity. It wasn't even altruism in the modern sense. It was the most mathematically rational survival strategy available, and it worked for hundreds of thousands of years.
Here's something that doesn't show up in most survival guides. The hardest part of starvation wasn't physical, it was the uncertainty. There's a classic psychology study you've probably heard of, the Minnesota Starvation Experiment, 1944. A group of volunteers had their calories severely restricted for 6 months. The physical results were documented, but the psychological results shocked the researchers. The men became obsessed with food to the exclusion of almost everything else. They collected cookbooks, they talked about food constantly, they dreamed about food. Several reported that thinking about food was the only mental activity that felt possible. Their personalities changed. They became withdrawn, irritable, emotionally flat. Now imagine experiencing that not in a controlled experiment, but in the wild, in winter, with your children. The ancient human psychological toolkit for managing this was not just impressive, it was essential for survival. Maintaining routine under starvation was not a luxury, it was strategy. The brain under starvation starts to catastrophize. The darkness moves in. Ancient humans knew, maybe not scientifically but practically, that idle minds in a famine became desperate minds, and desperate minds made fatal decisions. Staying busy wasn't just psychological comfort, it was the difference between a tribe that held together and one that fell apart. There's one more layer to the psychology of ancient starvation survival that I find genuinely moving: ritual. When starvation pressed in hard, when the uncertainty was at its worst, virtually every ancient culture we have evidence of turned to ceremony. Modern people sometimes look at these practices and see superstition, but there's something else going on. Ritual, in that context, performs a precise psychological function. It converts uncertainty, the thing that is psychologically destroying you, into a structured action. I can't control whether the deer is there. I can control that I performed this ritual correctly. I did my part, the world owes me its part. That mental state, focused, fatalistic, ready, was precisely the psychological condition needed to make dangerous decisions clearly and calmly. Okay, we've covered the body's biology, the food strategies, the social system, the psychological toolkit. Now let's talk about the physical techniques that kept ancient humans alive when calories were critically low. Because here's something counterintuitive. The answer depends entirely on the situation, and ancient humans understood this distinction instinctively in a way that took modern science until the 20th century to fully document. During acute food shortage, ancient tribes systematically reduced the physical activity of non-essential members. Children were kept still and warm, elders conserved. Those who couldn't contribute to the immediate food search were actively managed to consume the minimum possible calories. Not cruelty, not neglect, triage. Here's a calorie reality that most people have never thought about.
In cold weather, your body burns a significant percentage of its calories just maintaining core temperature. Ancient humans solved this with layered insulation that was, in some ways, more thermally efficient than most modern clothing. The air pocket system. This is the same principle as modern thermal underwear, modern sleeping bags, modern insulated jackets. But these people were doing it 40,000 years ago with nothing but animal skins and plant fiber. Because in a famine, every calorie your body doesn't have to burn on heat is a calorie your heart keeps beating on. This one shocked me when I first came across it in the research. Several indigenous cultures with documented food shortage protocols included something called a pre-hunt fast, deliberately not eating before a major hunt. Here's why it made sense. After 18 to 24 hours of fasting, the body's ketone production ramps up. The brain, running on ketones, enters a state of heightened alertness, documented in clinical research as improved mental clarity, sharper sensory perception, reduced cognitive noise. You are not weak when you are hungry, you are sharp. A hunter who had eaten a big meal was warm, a little drowsy, physically comfortable. A hunter who had fasted 24 hours was a different kind of machine. Ancient cultures universally knew something that modern people rediscover every time they study fasting. Hot water fools the body. Hot water, especially water that had been used to boil bones or bark, delivered minimal collagen or mineral content, but also produced a gastric response that temporarily suppressed acute hunger signals. Not enough to sustain, but enough to think clearly for another hour. In a famine, an hour of clear thinking could be the difference between a good decision and a fatal one. So, where does that leave us? Let's be honest with each other for a moment. Modern humans have, by any metric, completely solved the food access problem for large portions of the global population, and that's a genuine, profound achievement. But we have lost something. Not because we're soft, but because we've never been given a reason to keep these systems sharp. The ancient humans' greatest survival tool was the same then as it would be today. Not muscle, not technology, not luck. Knowledge, community, adaptability. Those are the three things that kept human beings alive across every ice age, every drought, every famine the planet threw at them. And those things, they still work. Here's the thought I keep coming back to. These people didn't survive because they were superhumans. They survived because they refused to pretend that survival was individual. They survived because they held their knowledge sacred. They survived because when things got hard, and things got very hard, they moved toward each other instead of away. 40,000 years later, we carry that exact same biology. We carry those same hunger hormones. We carry that exact same brain that sharpens under pressure. We carry that exact same capacity for the kind of knowledge that cannot be Googled. The next time things get difficult, not famine difficult, but difficult, when resources feel scarce and uncertainty feels overwhelming and you're not sure how much longer you can hold on, remember that you are the product of 300,000 years of people who faced worse and figured it out. That's it for today. If this video made you think differently about your own resilience, share it with someone who might need that reminder. And if you're new here, welcome. We cover forgotten knowledge, lost technology, and the things history quietly taught us that the modern world forgot to mention. Subscribe, because the next video, we're going underground. See you there.